Now I will talk about the project structure that Angular CLI have created for us. And I have named my project first that was generated earlier, and it has three folders: E2E, node modules, and the source folder. And after these three folders, we have different configuration files. At the end, we have tslint.json file. This file is used for building our application. We can change the configuration that how our application should be built. And up above that we have tsconfig.json. TS stands for TypeScript. If you have worked in Angular 2, you should know that Angular application from Angular 2 use TypeScript for developing our application. So it contains the configuration for our TypeScript. And we have a protractor.conf.js. It has a further testing configuration in it, and above that we have package.json. Package.json contains all the dependency modules that are required for our application. It's up to us that which module we want to use for our application. Like if we want to use _JS library, if we want to use grunt, if we want to use bower library, then we can add the version and the name of that dependency library, and then we can write and execute a command npm install. It's gonna execute all the dependencies that it will find and install that dependency after downloading inside this node_modules folder. You can see that right now under this node_modules folder we have bunch of different folders, and these are the libraries, dependency packages that are by default added by Angular CLI in our project. And we can manage all these node modules dependencies inside package.json file. Alright, and above that we have karma.conf.js, and inside it it has configuration for writing unit tests. Karma is the test runner, and it uses Jasmine as a framework, and both of these tester and a framework is developed by Angular team for writing unit tests. And above that we have .gitignore, and we define all the folders or files which we want to exclude from our repository in our Git. And we have editor.config. If we want to config our editor, how much space should be added, the size of our character, and bunch of other things. And then we have .angular-cli.json. It actually contains all the configuration of our Angular 4 project, Angular CLI project. You can see that it has a project name. By default, the name that we define at start has been added in our name property. And after that we have apps property configuration. We need to define the source folder. Right now this is a source folder which contains all the code, HTML code, CSS code, our TypeScript code. If you want to create components, pipes, services, directives, all should be inside the root directory. And we have defined in Angular CLI.json folder, that JSON file, that this should be the root directory that needs to be created. And after that we have assets folder default, and this is the starting point of our application, starting point of our TypeScript to be executed at start. And bunch of other files. We have a styles.css. All the CSS styles should be written in our style.css file. And we have bunch of other configuration that I'll be talking about further as I'll be going you through in this tutorial. If I open up my source folder in my first project, it has three further folders. We have app folder, assets folder, and environment folders. And after these three folders we have bunch of other individual files for the configuration of our source directory. So first one is the favicon.ico for the icon for our website or an application, and we have index.html that we have just opened. This is the head tag. It has a meta tag and the link tag for our favicon. And after that we have the body, and I just showed you that how we change the element or the structure inside the body, and that shows up in our browser. You can see that it's showing up in my browser right now. I'll just show you that where this thing is coming from. So let's come back, and after that we have main.ts file, and that was added by the Angular CLI.json that I just showed you. This one, that this is where our TypeScript start executing, when our application start. So at start of our main.ts file, these are the libraries that are imported by our Angular 4 project. And we have our Angular core library, we have a platform browser dynamic library that is used to make our application run on multiple browsers. And after that we have app.modules library, that is the parent module of our whole application. And after that we can set if we are in a production mode or we are in a development mode, and I'll come back to it later. And after that I am setting out it actually not I am setting out, but it actually default settings by our Angular CLI, and I'm calling the bootstrap module function. I'm setting out the root module, which is app.module right now, and I'm sending out this module to my bootstrapping my application. And after that we have a polyfills. This is used for the backward compatibility for our browser. And after that obviously we have a style.css. All the stylings that we want to write should be within the styles.css. And the test.ts file is used to write the unit testing. It has a karma already added and some of the configurations, but I'll come back to it later once I'll start writing unit test for our application. And tsconfig.app.json is an important file, and inside this file we define our configuration, that how our application should be compiled when we run it, that how it should be compiled and showed on our browser. Now if I open up my app folder, within the source folder we have a component and app.module.ts file. So let's first open up our app.module.ts file and let's see what inside it. First of all, these are the references of different libraries that needs to be imported before it being used. So first one is the browser module that is used to make our application browser compatible, that our application will run on browser, and this is the reference for our this library. And after that we have the Angular core ng module. This is actually the container of all other modules. Once we want to import all these modules, we define the add module declarator, and inside it we import all other modules. And after that by default Angular CLI imported and added the reference for our forms and HTTP libraries for handling the forms and HTTP requests in our application. And app.component is being imported for declaring our main component for our application. And these 5 lines are just the references of all these libraries: platform, browser, core, forms, HTTP, app.component. We are not using these component actually right here. We want to import all these libraries that we have referred right here. We need to refer all the libraries like this and store the reference within the variable. You can call it a variable. And after that within @ng module we want to set the declarator. This one is the declarator, and then we need to import these libraries. Make sure you remember this way of referring all the libraries, and after that we define a declarator and import all those libraries that we have referred above. All right, and after that we have defined the bootstrap and all these things within the ng module declarator, and we have given it a value app component that is used by the bootstrap whenever our application runs. And after that we have exported our app module, and this is where we will start writing our app component code. And this is the parent module of the whole Angular 4 application. This is not the part of any component, but this is the parent module. And above that all the 4 files: app components.ts, app components.spec.ts, app component.html, and the CSS files are one component. If I open up app.component.ts file, you can see that it has imported Angular core and stored the reference of this library in component. And after that we have a declarator component that is used to refer all other files that will be the part of this component. Like if I want to create a component must have an HTML file, its style file, and its TypeScript file. And all these three forms of languages or scripting files uh, form one component. Alright, so the component file must refer to HTML file and CSS file in order to become a whole one component. Alright, and after that we have exported our app component class and we have set our title that app works, and this is where our app works coming from in our browser. And if I want to change it, let's say I want to say app starts and I want to save it, and it's gonna reload inside it, and you can see that it has changed app works to app starts, because this is the one and only component that was by default created by Angular CLI. And we have set our title app starts, and above that we have app.component.spec.cs, and this is the file in which we write the unit test for our TypeScript file, which is app.component.ts file, and .spec is the recommended name of our unit testing file. By default it has a few unit tests already written, but we will write our own unit test as we will proceed in this tutorial series. And above that we have HTML file, and inside the HTML file we are binding our title element in our h1 element. Alright, if we want to create other variables and we want to bind that, we can bind the same variables within this kind of things, and we can use the directives that we'll talk about later. And above that we have app.component.css files. Right now by default Angular CLI haven't written any CSS file inside it, but we will write CSS file if we obviously we want to create our own custom component that we will be creating after discussing this structure. So that's it for the app folder. And after that we have assets folder. All the images, all the audio files, all the text files needs to be added in our assets folder. If we want to change this folder, we need to go to angular.cli and we want to add a new folder inside it. By default assets folder is the folder that we want to use for our assets directory. And after that we have environments folder. Right now I don't want to discuss about it because you won't be understanding right now. Once I will proceed further and I'll talk about the services, directives and components, I'll come back to it and explain you what this folder is all about. So let's get started working with creating our custom components in Angular 4.